Hello, honors pre-calc students. This is Coach H here, and I want to walk you through some basics of your Desmos graphing project. So what you see on my screen right now is the Google Classroom, and so I want to walk through a few details about the project. I'm not going to go through everything in the Google Classroom, so make sure that you take a look at that, especially the due date for the project. And then I'm going to walk you through examples of what you're actually going to turn in and submit, as well as some help with Desmos, so that if you get stuck, you can reference back to that. All right. So what you're going to do for this Desmos graphing project is you are going to create a free account on Desmos, and you'll want to use your school email. This will allow you to save your work so that if you don't get it all done in one sitting, you can go back and work on it again. And I'm going to show you how to save your work. And it will also allow you to share it when you get done, which is how you're going to turn in your project. So again, make a free account in Desmos with your school email. All right, if you take a look at the requirements section there, what this graphing project is going to entail is you are going to create a picture using the graphs of our 4 conic sections. So each conic section must be used at least one time. So you got to have one circle, one parabola, one ellipse, and one hyperbola. And then your picture has to include a total of at least 20 unique graphs, including the 4 conic sections. All right, so you can use things like linear equations and absolute value and square roots and cubic and logarithmics and trig functions. The one type of graph that you cannot use is our polar graph, so our rose curves and our limacons, because those are not graphed on a rectangular coordinate plane, and all of our other graphs are, and we can't switch between the two and put them on one picture. So those will be eliminated, all right? And when you get all said and done, you're going to turn in 2 things for me. You're going to turn in a rough draft of your sketch, and then you're going to turn in a completed picture on Desmos, okay? So again, you're going to create a picture using 20 different graphs at a minimum, okay? You can go above and beyond that to complete your picture, but you got to have at least 20 graphs, and again, one of each conic section. Now, let me show you what I created for a rough draft of what I'm going to share with you as my example. So way back when we first started this project, I must have been watching the movie Shrek or one of the Shreks with my boys, because I decided that I was going to create Shrek in Desmos. And so what you see right here is my example, my rough draft of how I was going to create Shrek. Okay. Now, first off, I apologize for my terrible art skills. But what I want you to notice is that I thought through how could I use each type of conic section. I think the hyperbola can be the trickiest one to determine. It's easy to throw in circles and ellipses and parabolas. And so the hyperbolas for me are up in Shrek's ears, or whatever those things are coming off his head, right? And then I use parabolas to close those off. You can see ellipses and circles for his eyes and some other places. And then I thought through, okay, what's the rest of Shrek going to look like and how am I going to create him? And so I rough drafted out what I wanted to create. And this gave me then a starting point to actually begin my graph. So this is going to be the first thing that you turn in your project. All right, when you get your rough draft figured out, I want you to create a diagram like this, just kind of identifying what types of graphs you're going to use. Take a picture of it and upload it in the Google Classroom. All right, that's the first thing that you're going to turn in. Once you have your rough draft complete, then you're ready to go to work in Desmos. So let me switch back over to Desmos here, and I'll show you what Shrek ended up looking like when I got all said and done in Desmos. And here he is. Okay, now you can see on the left side of my screen, all right, I've got all my equations listed out, and it took me 22 equations to create Shrek. Now you'll also notice that I changed some colors on the graph, so I'm going to show you how to do that in Desmos, as well as how to input some equations. And then if you look closely at the equations list, you're also going to notice that I included some restrictions, okay? And this is because we know that a lot of our graphs, right, their domain is negative infinity to positive infinity, but I don't want all of the graph to show up. I only want a part of it. And so that's what the restriction is. So for example, if I click on equation number 20 here, which is, let's see, that is the part of the hyperbola up here in his ear. And I know that because you can see the little shapes pop up here. And so that equation is representing his right ear. And I restricted that domain from 9 to 10. So we're only seeing it in just this small little range of x values from 9 to 10. Okay. Now I could have restricted him based off of y as well, but I set my restrictions up based on x, right? You can see equation number 19 is the same hyperbola, but it's restricted from negative 10 to positive 10 to give me a different ear, right? And so again, just those are my pictures of, or my restrictions on his ears, okay? All right, so when you get started in Desmos, I just recommend you just pick one of your equations and start playing around. And the nice thing is with Desmos, it's really easy to change and manipulate things, all right? So I wanna walk you through how to do some things in Desmos here, and then we'll go from there, all right? So let's add in another equation. Let's say that I decided, hey, I wanna add in some eyebrows for Shrek, all right? And so I think about what type of graph might I be able to use to create some eyebrows. And I think I'm going to go with a sine graph. All right. So if I'm in my next equation here, I can just start typing that in. So I know the basic equation for a sine graph is y equals sine of x, right? Now, if I take a look at where it is when I input that, I can see that, hey, the parent function y equals sine of x isn't going to get the job done for me. So I need to make some transformations to that graph, right? So the first thing is I want to get those eyebrows up above his eyes. And so I know I need to include a vertical shift. And so just kind of looking at my graph, right, I want to get it up in this area. So I'm just going to do something like y equals sine of x plus let's go 13, and that's not quite high enough. So let's take it to 15. Maybe that's a little too high. Let's go to 14. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. All right. Now the next thing is I don't quite like how the high points of the sine graph, the top of the sine wave, line up with its eyes. So I need to shift that over. So I'm going to add in a vertical shift, or excuse me, a horizontal shift. And so let's do something like x minus, oh, let's go 2. Yeah, and I'm pretty good. I like that. I like the way that looks. All right. So I'm going to kind of leave that right there. But I don't want the entire sine graph in there. I want to go ahead and I want to restrict that domain. Now you'll notice on my sine graph, these little dots pop up. And these are kind of helpful. All right. So let's say I wanted to restrict my domain. I'm just going to put my mouse right on top of that point, and I can see that gray point right there over his left eye is the point negative 5.85, comma 13. And so I'm going to restrict this graph based off of x. So I want to look at the x coordinate there, negative 5.85. And then I got another point over here over his right eye that's an x coordinate of 6.71. So those are the two numbers that I'm going to use to restrict this graph. So we're going to restrict x from, we're just going to call it a negative 5.9 to a positive 6.7. So I come back down in my equation, and I'm going to use a brace. And then a negative 5.9 is less than x, which is less than 6.7. And you can see we have now restricted that graph of the sine function. So I don't see the whole sine function. I now just see part of the sine function, okay? And let's say that now that I get this done, I'm like, hey, this is looking good. I like how that lines up, but I don't want him to have blue eyebrows. I would rather that he has black eyebrows. All right. So if I click on the little gear up here that says edit list, all right, when I do that, you'll notice that there's lots of options that pop up. Okay. But the one that I want to include, or what I want to change, is I want to change the color. So if I click on the blue circle on the left side of equation number 23, that's going to give me some color options. And I want to change this to black. All right. And I could even do this as well. I can make the line thicker. So maybe I want his eyebrows to be a lot thicker. So let's increase that to like a 6. And I don't want them to be a solid line. I want it to be a dotted line. Ooh, let's go dash line. There we go. Let's leave Shrek's eyebrows looking like that. All right. And now I've got my eyebrows added to Shrek. And so that's a way that you can add in a whole bunch of equations. I'll also point out, if you click on the little show keypad command down here in the bottom left corner, that you've got some different commands that pop up as well. If you want a square root function, we have that button. You've got an absolute value button. You've got your squared terms. You've got X and Y. You'll also have a list of functions that are available. And so if you click on that, you'll see all kinds of different things that pop up. A lot of these we haven't used in class and we won't use in class. But I will point out the calculus area that includes the natural log and the log, if you need a log of a different base or something like that. But if you paid attention when I was typing in my equation, you saw that I just typed in sine. So you could just type in ln or log for the common log, whatever you need to do. All right. The last thing that I want to show you is, you'll notice at the top of the equations list that I've got a save button. All right. And so because I am logged into my account, and you can see that because of my name over here in the top right corner, but I can go ahead and click save, and now you'll see that my graph is completely saved. So if that button is not blue, you'll notice when I highlight on it now, it says you have no unsaved changes. Everything that I've typed in has been saved at this point. But if I click start to type in a new equation, you'll see that that blue button pops back up because I have things that I haven't saved. So make sure that you save often. And then if you happen to log out and you want to come back in later to work on your graph because you didn't get it done in class, the easiest way to do that is, again, when you're logged into your account and you're in the graphing calculator mode, you're going to click on the little 3 bars right here. And you'll notice when I hover over that, it says open graph. And so if I click on that, whatever graphs you have saved are going to show up here. So you can see my Shrek example here, and you can see that's the graph that I'm currently working on, as well as other things. But that's where you will access your example as you work through it. Okay. Last thing that I want to show you is how to share your graph when you get done. When you get all done, you can come over to the top right corner, and you'll notice the little box with the arrow coming out of it. When I hover over that, it says share graph. So if I click on that, I can just pull up this little link, hit copy, and then I'm just going to put that into the Google Classroom. I can submit that link as my assignment. All right. So that is your Desmos graphing project. Again, 2 things that you're going to turn in before you get done. Number 1, your rough draft and a picture of that submitted in the Google Classroom. And then finally, the link to your Desmos graph once you have it all completed. Okay? So again, access this video as you need to, but good luck and use your creativity.